Good morning. Good morning. I think we are live. We are on time to make a change. So 11 o'clock, here we are. Welcome to our latest Talent Matters webinar. This is I think it's our 9th webinar that we've done, and actually our penultimate webinar until we pack up this series for a few months, and we'll come back in 2021. Who knows what 2021 will bring us, but we will certainly be doing some more webinars next year. That is a guarantee. Thanks to everyone who has joined us. If you are new and haven't joined a Talent Matters webinar before, these are informal discussions, informal webinars all around the talent attraction market. We talk around things where we want to help you to attract more talent and get the best talent to your business or to your recruitment agency. And everything kind of in between. Today's webinar comes at a time of change yet again. I guess something that we have all been getting used to and are used to now. We are in, I think, the start or getting towards the middle. If you're the optimist, you're at the middle of the lockdown. If you're a pessimist, this is the start of the lockdown, but we are locked down again. We have this morning seen growth in our economy, I think 15.5%, which is great. It's still 8% behind where we were before the pandemic struck. So that's something for us all to sort out in this next quarter and get that growth back. We are seeing inevitably, and I think everybody knew, biggest worst secret around, that we've seen unemployment has increased again, and I think we'll probably continue to see that increase as we go. On a serious note, we've now passed 50,000 deaths related from COVID, but there's a vaccine on the horizon as well. So the sooner that gets rolled out, the better. So just, we are all over the place. It's safe to say at the minute, with everything that's going on. And amongst all of this, the job market, recruitment market has been battered and bruised, and yet we carry on and we continue to make strides wherever we can. Job postings wise, applications wise, both are now above where we were in the sort of January to March averages, which is great. October, we saw a huge increase in applications. I think it was something like 175% above what it was in January and March, but also importantly, job postings were up as well, which is great. We've seen that start to tail off a little bit. I think the last data that we saw was 104% above for job applications above where we were before the pandemic, which is still fantastic in terms of application numbers. But we are seeing a slowdown of application numbers. Maybe that's to do with the extension of furlough, lockdown. Christmas is on the horizon now, and there is that sort of fatigue perhaps in terms of applying for jobs. But if you have become used to 175% increase on your applications, and now starting to look and wonder why is it dropped to only 100%, who better and what better topic to have today in optimizing your job ads, optimizing what's going out, and who better than to have an expert in this market, Daniel Fellows, founder of Get-Optimal. Daniel, I will pause for breath in a moment to say hello and welcome to this. But as I understand, your business, your technology can increase applications by up to 30%. Probably you'll tell me some stories where you've exceeded 30%, I'm sure, but I grabbed that from your website. So I'm chuffed to bits that you've joined us. I think it's really, really timely as well. Job ads, job copy is a topic of huge discussion. Daniel, welcome. Thank you for joining us. Really, really looking forward to getting into this. I will pause for breath, give you the opportunity to say hello, and introduce yourself, and probably do a better job than I did on the description of Get-Optimal. But please say hi, introduce yourself, and let us know what we've got in store today.
Hey Dave, thanks for having me. Dave the Wave, you can find him on Twitter. Great Twitter handle there. Thanks for having me. The pleasure's all mine. My name's Dan Fellows, founder of Get-Optimal. Yes, we optimize job ads for search engines and for job boards. From my time at Indeed and now with Optima, I know a sort of great deal about this global problem that we're slowly changing. And today, excuse me, we're going to talk around that job copy, around SEO, around gender bias, and hopefully have a lively debate, Dave, just about why it's important and why now, with millions of new candidates coming into the marketplace, you really have to prioritize your job ads.
It seems like it's something that's been around for a long time, and it's over the years. I've been involved in 20 odd years in recruitment, advertising, and now recruitment technology. Job copy and the quality of copy has been an ongoing theme. So we're going to get stuck into that. It is something that I am hugely interested in, hugely passionate about, and I think we probably share a lot of the same views. I'm going to try my best to be devil's advocate a little bit, but let's get stuck into it. So, job copy. Surely, in today's 4.8% unemployment, I've heard people say that there's loads of people out there. Why should I bother with my worrying too much about my job copy? There's loads of people out there. I'll just chuck an ad out, and I'll get a response. I don't need to spend time worrying about all the finite details.
Said most recruiters. Yeah, absolutely. As a business, you want to try and have a universal appeal. So thinking to your question, why is it relevant now? You're going to answer it from a business owner's point of view, from a recruiter, from a talent attraction, HR leader as well. We're seeing, and I think you alluded to before, that companies are finally starting to understand that you can't continue to copy and paste rubbish job ads. Effectively, you're able to now multi-spam 2,000 different websites with speculative copy that you've got no idea whether or not that actually is going to resonate with a candidate, whether an algorithm is going to pick up on the content, on the relevancy, and whether you're going to get, let's say, 95, which I think is the average % rejection rate of the candidates coming through. So it's Chad Sowash coined it in May. He talks about garbage out, job ad, garbage in, which is very harsh, but he's an ex-Royal Marine, so I'm not going to argue with him. But his underlying point is, if you want to spend 80% of your day, of your team's day, rejecting qualified candidates that aren't right for your business, whether you're a staffing agency and you're looking to place folks into roles, or whether you're an in-house recruiter, or whether you're actually a business owner as well. So it's really kind of obvious, isn't it? If you're going to absolutely publish something out, you've got no idea whether it's actually going to land with the algorithm, with the job board, with the search engine, with the candidate. Why would you be surprised when the talent that comes back into your candidate pipeline isn't the talent that you need for your business? But it's like an onion. There's so many different layers. And I know you share my passion, Dave. And I think if we had a club, an exclusive club about fanatics about job ads, I'd probably be the chairman. And I'd probably ask you to be my vice chairman as well, because we're a small committee, but we're growing in terms of the importance. But job ads are, I've spoken too much this week. Job ads are fundamentally about screening the candidates that aren't right for your business, and they're about qualifying the candidates that are right for your business as well. This is ahead of your online assessments, the ATS, your CRMs, or your automation tools. you screen the wrong candidates and you qualified the right candidates. It's the top of the funnel. It's the first thing that you do after writing your job description or writing your 400 bullet points of every single thing that that candidate needs to do. If you don't influence the top of your funnel, then ultimately you're not going to have any control over the rest of that process. And we all know how exhausting it is hiring one person, let alone thousands of people as well. But let's start with the recruiter, start with the staffing agency. This is about revenue. This is about your own revenue, but also the revenue for your business and increasing and hitting your targets. You cannot attract and place qualified candidates without an optimized job ad, period. But as Dave, you would say, as devil's advocate, well, of course we are. We're doing it every day. That's true. But then ask yourself, how long has it taken you or the agency to qualify that candidate? How many candidates have you had to go through to actually get, and the budget that you've wasted, how many candidates have you had to go through to get the right candidates? The thing we used to do it Indeed quite a lot, you talk about quality of candidates, you go into meetings with clients and everyone would say, we need more quality of candidates. So we used to do this kind of awkward 5-minute game where we'd ask you, Dave, to pull out your mobile. Can you try and find the last job that you posted online? You can't use your company name. You can't use your brand name. If you're hiring for an account manager in Burton-on-Trent, search online. And then you kind of sit there awkwardly. And the more senior they were, the more awkward it got as well, because 100% of the people that we did this with, I remember doing it with Harrods, particularly awkward because they had a ridiculously large talent attraction team. No one could find the job ad. And the point of that is not to embarrass people. It's just to make you aware that if you can't find your job ad, then how do you expect a candidate to find and then apply for your job ad? And again, they would say, oh, no, it's fine. We'll get people applying. You might get someone that's gone to page 27 of Indeed and applied. I'll probably hazard a guess that that's not the right quality of candidates coming into your business. And then you look at the second aspect is the SEO aspect, the search engine optimization. The majority of job boards or good job boards have got their own internal algorithm, which prioritizes content and prioritizes relevancy. It won't prioritize a terrible job ad that isn't actually targeted around positioning, around messaging, around keywords, around gender bias, over one that is highly optimized as well. When a candidate searches for a job online, they want the same experience as when they're booking a holiday, when they're buying something on Amazon, on John Lewis, or maybe just shopping for some Christmas presents for their kids. 85% of UK job seekers start their search online. If you don't have a highly optimized piece of content, that algorithm is not going to prioritize your job ad. I mean, it's really simple. You don't have to understand what an algorithm is. You don't have to understand how it works, but your careers page, your career site, your job ads, they're crawled and they're indexed. And Dave, you can talk to this probably more than me, but it's how they're perceived by a search engine. Then they're going to be given a rank and a page score and an authority. They're going to be indexed and put into categories and subcategories as well. I mean, obviously, we all know there's a huge amount of complexity that goes into an algorithm. But if you don't have highly optimized piece of content, which is what a job ad is, it's a piece of highly relevant, rich content. You're not going to be in the race to try and attract those most qualified candidates. I think the third aspect, talking to your employer brand team, because obviously we talk to lots of different people in different teams. The job ad sits at the top of the funnel, as we already mentioned. It's the first time a candidate comes into contact with your business. How does that job ad reflect on your business? Whether it's something you've copy and pasted 100 times, whether it's identical across every single job ad as well. We spoke to third largest staffing agency in the UK a couple of weeks ago, and our algorithm just kindly pointed out there were 26 mistakes on average within their job ads. This goes to grammar, goes to punctuation, spelling mistakes, brackets. Obviously, the gender bias is huge in keywords as well. And again, it's not pointing the finger at anybody. It's no one's fault. But your job ad is reflective of your business and of your brand. So to take absolutely no pride, which the majority of people do, in what you're doing doesn't at all reflect well on your business. Then you look at time and then you look at budget. The average UK recruiter takes an hour and 20. I don't know what your experience is, Dave, of writing job ads. An hour and 20 to write, copy and paste, plagiarize a job ad. when you could be doing something a lot more meaningful or the part of the job that you enjoy most. Surely there's a better way to utilize that recruiter's time. I know the business owners that we work with, they used to do it on a Saturday, or they used to do it on a Sunday when they were, watching their kids play rugby or something. They'd get quite stressed about it because they knew they couldn't trust their team to do it. They would have to do it themselves. So optimal giving back them time gives them efficiencies, not just in a time point of view. And time is without doubt our most precious commodity, but also budget. The inefficiencies that most companies will spend trying to attract candidates, but ultimately you're probably going to attract 5 to 6 of the wrong candidates. That's obviously relevant if you're attracting thousands of candidates before you actually attract the right candidate. And I think the last point of the sort of 6 fundamentals of why job ads are important is around D&I and diversity and inclusion. I know we're going to talk about that shortly, Dave, but you're unconsciously excluding qualified talent from your workforce around gender principally, but also around race and also around accessibility. Excluding qualified candidates from the process. I mean, that in itself is something fundamentally wrong with the business and the industry that we're working in.
Pretty comprehensive answer, Daniel. Thank you.
Big onion, Dave. It's a lot of layers.
There's a lot of layers. I mean, there's a lot in there, and to kind of just almost summarizing that and picking some of the things out of it. One of the things that I have dealt with for many, many years is a reluctance to accept that job boards are actually functioning and effective businesses. The number of people that I've spoken to that said job boards are rubbish. I mean, this is almost part of where we built Wave Tracker from. Was because we were told all the time that job boards are rubbish, all of them, every single one of them. And yet, when you look at the numbers of candidates that they are going through all of those sites, it's pretty much the whole world. At some point, as you said, 85% of people start a job search online. They're going to end up at one of the job boards, or now Google for Jobs. They're going to end up somewhere, but they don't work. And so, based on what you said there, there's a clear correlation between a job ad that someone posts onto a job board, and a job board could have 200,000 jobs. And if you post one job, and you've written it poorly, no one's ever going to find it. So if the first thing to pull out from that is if you're finding that your job boards that you're working on are not performing that well, the first place to look at is the quality of your the job ads that you're putting out there. The question that we come across sometimes is then we end up, there is a potential kind of he said, she said type thing where you got the job board saying, well, look at the quality of your ads, they're really poor. And you got the client saying, yeah, but I've put them on your board and you should be able to optimize them. You should be able to, and you end up just clashing. And I wonder if there is an easier way around that, where it's not a case of one pointing finger at the other. But everything you've said makes complete sense. I don't actually think I've come across very many people that said actually it doesn't. I'm trying to play devil's advocate here.
Yeah, no, of course. I'm
struggling because I don't, I find it difficult to get my head around that someone would look at a job ad and say it's not important. But what about, you mentioned you got the business owners writing ads at the weekend. It's the time, right? It's the time that it takes to differentiate. If you're working on a role that you're recruiting for that's the same as you've got 6 other agencies working on the same thing, you want to try and write that job ad differently, takes time, and you're conscious that you're going to run out of time, and all the other agencies that are recruiting for that role get in ahead of you, they get candidates submitted, and they lose out on the, which you rightly said, it's revenue. It's revenue. And if you don't submit that candidate, the agency down the road submits the candidate and you've lost out. So there's a time element. I think that's one thing to point out, is that I don't have time to optimize my ads. I don't have time to think about my ads. I don't have time to make sure it's employer branded, employer branding compliant. I've just got to get something out there, and I've got to do it quick.
Yeah, but that's as devil's advocate, that's completely counterintuitive. I don't have time to make sure the greatest asset that I have for my own personal, my professional success is highly optimized. That's fine, but we do have the time. We saved our largest client last quarter 376 hours from their 300 recruiters not having to copy and paste, write, whatever you want to term it, job ads as well. So for someone that says, I haven't got time, it's like, no, you've got time to reject all of the candidates that are going to come through. You've got time to go back to your client and say, probably going to cost you a bit more if you haven't agreed to terms, because I'm wasting budget by actually just spraying and praying. Really hate that expression, but it's very visual. Again, not having time is kind of bullshit. I think it's a terrible excuse. If you're going up against 40 other recruiters with a single job rec, what is going to be your point of difference? Having a job ad that's optimized. And again, we reviewed one of our healthcare clients, Indeed dashboards, and this isn't an Indeed roadshow, by the way. They got 60% more qualified candidates in the last 6 weeks working with Optimal, and they hadn't changed their budget. So, again, there's so many different examples of that. But yeah, I do think the time thing is, if I hear that, then alarm bell goes off a little bit in my head. And to be honest, I've heard most of the reasons why they shouldn't be optimizing job ads, and most of them are irrelevant. Just 2 more points I'll probably add to that, Dave, as well. And I'm sure job ads is one of 3 elements that you've really got to work on. The second element is budgeting, of course. Anything you post organically is never going to be seen by a candidate, full stop. If anybody tells you, oh no, it's fine, don't spend, it's free, it's rubbish. You literally won't find any quality candidates that way. Also, your employer brand. Go onto your Glassdoors, your Indeeds, have a look about it. Again, it's incredibly important that your employer brand talks about your business, talks about your culture, ways of working, your salaries, what is your approach to diversity and inclusion throughout the business, not just hiring, but onboarding. What's that pathway look like for candidates that are coming from different, more diverse backgrounds? Because those 3 elements together will really help you to find the right candidate coming into your business. But if your employer brand is let down, but you've got a good budget and good content, you're not going to hit those 3 key elements that you need to recruit the right inclusive and diverse workforce.
Good stuff. Sage words. I need to remind any viewers that you've got any questions or anything you want to fire out, then please do say hello, make yourself known. If you think what Daniel is saying is bullshit, then say, and we can then, because you guys could probably do a better devil's advocate job than I am at the minute. So stand us to account, and let's see if we can pull some of this out. So I'm asking for some help on this devil's advocate thing, because I am struggling to disagree with anything you've said at the minute.
I'll do where I can.
So let's move on. Gender bias, diversity. You mentioned this a couple of times. What's all that about? Let's how can I write an ad? I've sort of dusted off my old English essays that I did at school and whatever it was on the chalkboard. I've written an ad. It's not bias. It's not bias. It's just an ad, Daniel. What are you on about?
I was reading last night the World Economic Forum report recently stated that it would take 257 years at the current rates to close the gender pay gap. Just thought I'd throw that in, because
wow.
it's quite depressing, isn't it? And to think that we are starting to recognise about gender pay has been, it's been on people's radars for a good 5 years. Not a lot has changed. Obviously BBC had lots of issues with it as well. But again, it's that top of the funnel. It's the job ad. It's the talent attraction piece, and it does 99% of job ads that the optimal algorithm, the optimal scoring tool, will analyze are full of gender bias, masculine and female, but predominantly more masculine. What is it? I mean, basically, really, it's consciously and unconsciously you're excluding qualified candidates from the talent attraction processes. And this is language, structure, and the content of your job ads. Bullet points will put off a significant proportion of female candidates, and we'll talk to that in a moment. But I think it's also good to set up why is it important. Diverse teams transform a business. Every single piece of literature you do, every reading, every data, every insight source will show you the great business advantages, but also culturally and socially the big advantages. And I think you rather depressingly relayed the current situation we live in, Dave, and it is, but we're both positive, optimistic people. But I think COVID, the one positive or a few positives, we all have a collective responsibility, and there's an opportunity to create a much more diverse workforce. What's our workplace going to look like from a people point of view in 2021 and beyond? A recent ZipRecruiter survey said that job adverts with gender neutral wording get 42% more qualified candidates. I mean, again, who doesn't want a much more diverse, inclusive work? Again, it's that question, isn't it? Who doesn't want to optimize a job ad? Who does not want, put your hands up, who doesn't want a more inclusive, diverse workforce? I mean, again, when you say these things out loud, you go, hang on, this is all a bit crazy. But diverse organizations, they benefit from a larger talent pool. Why? Because they're attracting and they're greeting and waving at a much more diverse, literally numbers of people, mainly because their vacancies obviously gain interest from different candidates. But we built diversity recruiting into the Optimal core product last November. It's essentially a gender decoding tool. What it does, it removes the gendered words and pronouns from your job ad. Because someone said to me earlier on a call, I'll get someone to do that. And I said to him, what are you going to be looking for? Oh, I don't know. That's right. You don't know because it's unconscious. You don't know ultimately what you're looking for. And we do. I asked, sorry to get my mouse out, but I asked data scientist guy earlier just to pull me out all the key things that we analyze and we remove when we're going through all of the job ads. This is bad preparation. Sorry, let me just pull it up here.
It's on the fly. It's brilliant.
It is. It's technology. Come on, Mac. So again, it analyzes gendered language. Really basically taking out words like tenacious, driven, competitive. They're very masculine coded languages, adventurous, aggressive. So we take away masculine coded language, also take away female coded language. We take away the use of gendered words that could indicate discrimination in favor of a certain gender. We take away things like, everyone knows, gender pronouns that again could discriminate against non-binary gender. We take away, it's quite funny, we take away derogatory gender terms. We've seen job ads with words like stallion and hose in it as well, which that's actually Indian and American customers. We take away sexualized terms. We take away bro technology, bro grammar, you might have seen, skills, hella. We take away dumb job titles, which are everywhere, gurus, ninjas. We take away mention of hollow benefits, which again, I'm sure you've all seen, pizza, PlayStation, brewskis. We take away the competitive nature of work environment, cutting edge, forefront, superstars. Anyway, I could go on for ages. That was just the point to make that there's a huge amount of complexity that goes into our technology to enable us to remove the gender bias. And then you go, okay, I get this. Well, why should I do it? So then we look into the data. First in by Deloitte, who is, everybody knows of Deloitte. They did a study last year, and their data shows huge data sets that highly inclusive organizations generate 2.3 times more cash flow per employee. They also generate 1.4 times more revenue. And also they, rate themselves as a business 170% better at innovation and 180% better at adapting to change. And the retention rates were something ridiculous, like about 86% by having a much more inclusive working culture. I know when I worked at Indeed, we had 15 different diversity groups. And that was a shock. It was like, wow, okay, I think of myself as, very, very aware. But it was up to me to go and understand and to really do the research around why we needed all these different diversity and inclusion teams in the building, in the company, and all the 40 companies they operate. But you sit around a table with a diverse team, you can watch magic happen. Literally, the thinking, the process, the way that everybody comes at something slightly different it enables you to create great products for your customers.
It's really timely, isn't it? Because I think inclusion and diversity, it's become such a big aspect of this year, as it should be, and it should continue to do that. And I think, just funnily, like as you read through some of those words, and you just imagine a candidate with that sort of skill, if you like, of driven and tenacious, and in that respect, you typically think of a man.
Absolutely, of course.
And those things, that's where you even in your mind's eye, even if you are trying to, and I suppose this is where the unconscious bias comes from, of course. But on the end, the examples around the benefits of the diverse workforce are there to see, and again, can't argue with any of that at all. But one thing with removing all of those words, do you end up then with an ad that could be quite bland, perhaps, or and tries to target everyone and reaches no one? Is that a potential issue?
Again, I think we're getting onto the science and the art of the job ad in a moment, but what we're doing, we're effectively we're taking away the visible to make it invisible. So if you think we work with a technology called GPT-3, Google DeepMind. It's an incredible machine learning tool. And have you seen the picture, Dave, the two pandas, where one's got a round eye and one's eye is slightly oval? They're effectively the same picture. And it's making the point around, I think they're called convolution neural networks, that two people can look at identically the same thing and have two completely different reactions. Mm-hmm. So again, that's the same with the job. You're also removing wording which people weren't aware of, that was there anyway. So that experience is only going to be positive. The fact that you're looking for a sales executive in Bedford who is tenacious, driven, likes to work in a target-driven culture, that will ultimately say the same thing. But it's going to attract a much more diverse candidate to apply for that role. And we all know we'll work in sales. We're all salespeople. Sales is psychological. Sales is about support. Sales is about coaching. Sales isn't about driving a wedge in someone's head every single day, challenging them and motivating and shouting at them. And, I've been on some sales floors. It's ferocious. So changing the language will absolutely probably still attract that candidate that likes to be shouted at 3 times a day, but also it's going to attract the candidate that is going to be much more strategic about what they're doing. They're going to have a much more empathetic approach, and they're probably, I would hazard a guess, they're going to be a lot more successful to your business by that candidate. So no, in our experience, and again, this is just us from the thousands of job ads that we optimize, you just get a much more diverse candidate pool applying, which is what we'll need and what we're all striving to do.
Yeah. Naomi, thank you. Welcome. Thanks for putting your question in. And actually, it's something that again, using that example there, Daniel. But let's I'll come on to that in a moment. So Naomi said, work in a largely female industry and don't see tenacious and driven as male words. So what if you do want those qualities?
Again, I can only speak to the data. And all of the science behind not just what we do. Everything we do is generally based off literature from studies from university, from Harvard, from Oxford as well. And the overwhelming majority are hypersensitive people a high percentage of female candidates are put off by that terminology. You can still attract driven, target-orientated candidates, but you can use different language to do that. So again, we are proving that the candidates that we're driving to our customers, whether it's our healthcare customers, whether it's folks that work in manufacturing, work around with a lot of technology people as well, they're getting much higher quality of candidates who can still fulfill the requirements of being problem solvers or being target driven or revenue driven as well, but they can do it in a much more collaborative and inclusive way. And again, we all know, Dave, and the customers that you guys have got, you have to have a different approach to everybody you're talking to, because guess what? Everyone is different. Everyone's DNA is completely different as well. You can't have the same approach with every single candidate.
Yeah, it's really interesting, isn't it? Because you want some of those people, you're talking about sales floor, and as you said, there are some fairly ferocious sales floors around in the world, and you need to have some of those those characteristics. So I guess it's a way in terms of still wanting to attract those characteristics without actually putting people off, or putting a diverse audience off that may be brilliant at the job. They just maybe don't even relate themselves to being tenacious or driven. Yes, they are.
And again, that's just Naomi's point. That's not a gendered response, Naomi. I probably did 600 sales meetings, but indeed with probably 40 or 50 different NAMs, national account managers, who are obviously salespeople. So I've seen many, many different approaches. I've never seen it actually indeed explained more differently by so many different people, but also the approaches from the female salespeople and from the males are drastically different. But at the dashboard at the end of the quarter, predominantly there was a huge amount of the female sales and the female leaders in there as well. So I wasn't referring, I don't think you think I was, but the women aren't absolutely tenacious, driven, ferocious as well. But I think, obviously, as we'd all agree, being highly on a more intellectual level than men, they can be attracted to much more inclusive and collaborative job ads.
It is. You're 100%, Naomi. It's fascinating. It's fascinating when you really start to get into some of the psychology of all of this, and then the way in which people behave and different reactions. So let's move from science to data to creativity. We not to the extent by any stretch that you guys do, but we've published data around advert length. It varies from industry to industry. We make recommendations on keywords and things that should be included, and we will get dragged over the coals by the creatives of the world that don't see job copy as data driven. They see it as creative driven. And I suppose a follow-up kind of observation is, are we writing job ads for the search engines of the job boards, or are we writing ads for the candidates? Is it creative? Or is it art, or is it science, your job ad?
It's both. Fundamentally, it's both. It's around drawing talent from an aspirational point of view, from an empathetic point of view. But first of all, you've got to serve that job ad to the candidate through predominantly a search engine's algorithm as well. So you can write the most beautiful, I haven't seen many, but you can write the most beautiful job ad, which, I'm an emotional mess by the end of it, because your mission driven business is going to change the world, et cetera, et cetera. But then the algorithm isn't showing that to the candidates who are searching for that type of job. So there's always a massive, massive disconnect as well. Some normal examples people use are Deliveroo, Spotify, companies like that who understand the art and the science of a job ad. It's both, Dave, absolutely. And our tools, technology. We look at tone, we look at intent, we look at readability, we look at, the different audience levels about how it should be ultimately, how it should be framed. But you've got tools like Google Ask or SEMrush. These SEO tools give you insight into what candidates are searching for. So again, that gives you an essence of the research that you should be doing as well. But again, if it's not going to perform from a data point of view, then, as I say, it can be written by Jane Austen and it's not going to be shown to the candidates. And again, if you've got people from a creative point of view, and we do work with a lot of creative people, it's a simple A/B test. It's a simple A/B test of 1 or 25 job ads from the existing one that you've got and the one that's been highly optimized for SEO. And very humbly, purely from what I know that we do, we will always outperform and drive a much higher quality and inclusivity of candidates. That's not to do anybody out of their job. You still need people inputting effectively into the job description, but the final job ad is 90% data or 90% science and 10% art, as we would refer to it.
I think I agree. I think one of the things that we sometimes are still learning on, learning about is the medium that we're using. Copywriting and writing in general for years and years was predominantly on paper. And it's only very recently that we now consume most of our content online, and we haven't quite caught up with that. And one of the examples that I normally think of or use is thinking about the source and the medium that you're using. You wouldn't publish a whole bunch of long form copy on a billboard, because of the time that someone has to look at a billboard. You would keep that very, very short. So you have to think about where you're actually publishing the content that you're doing and react accordingly. So you can't just take what you wrote on a billboard and put it on an online job ad. You can't write what you would have put in a brochure and put it online either. So you have to consider that as well. So I do agree with what you're saying. But the subject of copy, this has been around for donkey's years. We've been seeing rubbish ads for the last 20 years. Is this ever going to change? Are we ever going to see the investment in time and resource in your job ads anytime soon? Or in 20 years' time, in 2040, we'll be doing another webinar and we'll be discussing the same thing. Is it like this? Is this just how it is? Or can you see it changing?
I was chatting with Morgan. He's the CEO of Vecida Diversity Job Board, fabulous company, been going for about 6-7 years. And I think he asked me the question yesterday, is Marcus Rashford going to be taking a knee in 20 years? And it's not at all like job ads, but yeah, we are seeing the change. There's companies like us. There's a company in the US called Texio, which is a multi-billion-dollar company. They're more about augmented writing, so they'll improve your web page, your content as well. They don't necessarily specialize in job ad optimization like we do, but yeah, algorithms, the Indeed, the Google for Jobs, the LinkedIn, we're seeing less and less job boards. I read a report yesterday about Upwork, which is a freelance website. They had a 96 million pound revenue in Q3, which was an increase of something like 30%. Whereas these job boards, eFinancial Careers, these other companies, part of the Dice family, also the Career Builder family, their revenues are decreasing month on month. And realistically, they're not going to be in business in the next sort of 12, 24 months. And a lot of that, even Upwork, is based on an algorithm around content and around relevancy as well. So whilst at the moment you're still having a few conversations of people going, we know we've got this problem, we're not actually that bothered to do anything about it. There's pressure coming from all sides, not just from Optimal, who's doing it. You look at what you guys are doing, look at different ATS providers, look at programmatic platforms. And again, if you're putting all of your jobs through a programmatic platform like a Jovio, like a Recruitix, maybe a Bonk, or using Wave, you have to have optimized content. Why would you speculatively spam all of those job ads out effectively you're just wasting your budget. So will it ever change? It's changing already, and we're only going to see an increase of that, particularly around diversity and inclusion, because like in the US, it's federal law, it's compliance that you have to have gender neutral job ads. And I think in the UK that will come. But also, programmatic, as you know, is growing hugely. So there's going to be a lot more automation around what we do. And with automation comes our ability to absolutely prove from a data perspective on the benefits, not just from commercial point of view, which is very, very important, but also from a sort of diversity and inclusion from a quality of candidate experience as well. But everyone starts everything on a search engine, don't they? Generally, mostly. So that's where candidates search for jobs. So again, it does beg a belief sometimes why you wouldn't prioritize maybe taking £3,000 out of your job board budget, which you've had forever, and actually put that into something which can enhance everything that you're doing around attracting more qualified candidates.
It makes sense, doesn't it? And pretty much everything that you've said today has made sense.
Can I have that in writing, Dave? Can I have that in writing?
We'll record this so you can play it back. And a classic sort of connection drop out when I said I would record that slightly. So I don't know. Okay, so we're kind of, and as I had warned, we thought we rattle through the time really quickly. I think we've covered so much, and there's been so much here. Let's give the viewers something. If they're sort of watching this, saying, "Well, this is all great. I know that my ads are not the best at the minute. What can they do? Even practical. Then what can they do 10 minutes after this finishes? After they've had their lunch, what can they do to make their ads better this afternoon?"
Okay. Top 10 tips. Job titles. Don't use internal jargon. Don't use job
gurus, ninjas, stars, rock stars. Forget it.
But even things like customer retention officer. It's a customer service advisor. Don't create these rubbish job ads just because you think you need to create something new. It's all about weight of relevancy. Use Google Trends. Free tool can tell you about job titles. Also, a little known fact with Indeed, if you start typing in the search bar, customer, the one that comes at the top is the one that's most searched for. So if you're never sure, I don't know if that's a secret, maybe it is, but go onto Indeed and start account manager or whatever it is. It'll show you the most searched for job title. Length is so important. Keep it between 700 and 2,000 characters. It's not an essay. You don't need to put 40 bullet points. Never actually put more than 4 bullet points in a row. You can put 2 lots of 4 bullet points, but never ever put more than 4 bullet points in a row, and really shouldn't have any more than a maximum of 8 bullet points in any job ad. The order, the role, sometimes that's not put in, bizarrely, the remuneration package, the responsibilities, the must-haves, the driving license, although you'll still get people without a driving license. Company mission vision is incredibly important. I was being facetious about it earlier. Optimal is part of a much wider sort of movement in the industry to create more diverse workforces. But 80% of candidates don't really care about their mission or vision. They care about the job, how much it's paying, where it's based, and what are my benefits. Mobile is important. Always check your job on a mobile device before you post it out. That first paragraph is incredibly important. A lot of our clients take the first paragraph out of the optimized job ad and they'll put it into Facebook, into LinkedIn, and onto social networks as well, because that's an incredibly rich paragraph. Try and avoid gender bias in language and description. Again, that's quite challenging for people without the data, the insights, and the tools to do that. Do not copy and paste competitors' job ads, because they will be rubbish. Our optimal scoring tool, which we'll have live in 3 weeks, we have a plagiarism aspect, which is kind of cool. We drop your job ad into it, and it shows you where else it is on the internet, which is fun. It should have some fun conversations for the sales team. Add a call to action at the bottom. What do you want them to do? Click here, apply now, please call us today, etc. Again, we see so many job ads that just, I forgot, just that's it just ends. There's nothing else. Would you apply to this job? Does that job, again, it might not be the job that you want to do, but would you apply to the job? Never lose sight of empathy and respect as well. We know having a job is so important to all of us. So have a little bit of empathy in terms of what you do. And then it's out of my hands and your hands, but the application process, for every minute you add to an application process, you lose about 4% of your candidates. So think about that in terms of what you're doing. But it's about more of the right candidates seeing your jobs, more relevant candidates clicking on your jobs, and that quality of applications turning into a hire or replacing. So follow those 10 rules, and you'll do better than most people.
Brilliant, absolute gold, all that, and I shall make note of those as well, because there's some really good stuff in there. I think one of the things that I normally said to clients, so many times, is your job ad is not your job description. It's not. You don't have to include every single duty or task or responsibility in that job in the actual job ad. I think most candidates know that there are other things that you'll be doing beyond what's written in the job ad. So bear that in mind. And the other one that's come for us recently is just be very clear on location as well. I know sometimes there is a temptation for recruiters that don't necessarily want to give any telltale clues away in terms of what client they're working with, so it can be quite challenging. But at the same time, candidates want to know where the job they're applying for is based. So try and make that clear as well, and that helps, I think, with the search algorithms as well. The job boards will apply in terms of the jobs they show. But Daniel, that was absolute gold. And if anyone's watching that didn't manage to scribble those all down as quickly as they could, we will be publishing this webinar again, so you can go back and you can pause and you can make notes of all the things that Daniel covered there, because that would make a huge difference. We've gone. This is the longest. I'm pretty sure this is the longest webinar that we have done, and people will be getting hungry, I'm sure. But absolute gold in there.
Starving. Yeah.
I couldn't.
Starving.
I failed tremendously at my devil's advocate role in this, so we will. I won't try and do that again. But brilliant info on there, Daniel. Thank you so much, and I hope everyone found that useful. Try it, take it away, do some of those, include some of those things, and try it in your next job ad and see if it makes a difference, and do come back and feed back to us if it did or didn't, and that would be interesting to find out about. So, Daniel, once again, thank you for coming on. It's been great. Thank you to everyone who has joined us and stuck with us. As I said, this is our penultimate webinar, so we will have our last one in the next few weeks. Then we're going to pack this up for Christmas and come back next year. But thank you very much, everyone. Hope you found it useful, and we will see you again soon. See you later.
Bye-bye.